Hello everyone, and welcome to the future of insurance today. Thank you for joining us. I'm just going to give attendees a couple of minutes to join the webinar, so please can you continue to hold just for a few moments while we wait for a few more people. Thank you. Katie, can you just let me know when you think we have the majority of the attendees joined, please, so I can kick off. I think 30 more seconds and then we should start. Okay, everyone, thank you again and welcome to the future of insurance today. A few housekeeping items before we get started. First and foremost, we will be recording today's session and your continued attendance denotes your acceptance of this, so thank you. Also, I'm sure there's going to be some questions during the session. Please feel free to add them to the chat at any point. Our team will be monitoring this and we'll also save some time at the end for verbal Q&A. I will address any outstanding questions from the chat then. So just to start off with the agenda. So today we're going to start with, next slide please, Katie. Fantastic, thank you. Introduction. Bart Canister, Solutions Specialist at Microsoft. I hope I said your name correctly there, Bart. We also have James Woollam, an industry thought leader who's going to talk to us through the importance of digital transformation. We have a number of demos to share with you today, a presentation from Cloud 2020 and some business outcomes and conclusion. Thank you. So by way of an introduction, so the insurance industry is facing a fast changing landscape. Companies are looking for strategies around operational flexibility, reducing system and data silos to effectively utilise data and provide the right people and processes to succeed in a dynamic business environment. As the world deals with COVID-19, insurers are seeing seeing changing customer and employee expectation. And this is in addition to cost-savvy consumers who change from one insurer to another now more than ever. Insurance leaders are seeking to digitally transform and innovate while seeking to reduce costs and operations. So Microsoft are at the core of today's presentation. Microsoft believe when we work together, we can accomplish more, and are committed to accelerating the digital transformation and global scale with their powerful customer engagement platform and their partner ecosystem, which has been created in a perfectly evolutionary and future-proof platform and ecosystem with endless possibilities. So Solgari, an inner circle Dynamics 365 all-channel communication solution provider, We're focusing on transforming customer engagement by offering all channels, all functionality, including contact center, security, compliance, etc. Traviata delivers value to the Dynamics 365 customer engagement ecosystem, building on and supporting lead policy process, helping to generate faster quotes, while also increasing upsell and cost reduction in claims and handling. Cloud 2020, our Microsoft SI partner, these guys are going to help identify which area of your business will benefit most from the Microsoft ecosystem and the partnership network. They'll help work on the customization and configuration to ensure that your business derives the most value and return on investment from the get-go. Together, you'll see the power of Microsoft's ecosystem plus ISV Connect partners. And this is what's brought us together to present to you today. So at this point, I'd like to intro Bart Knuester. Hopefully I said that right, Bart.
Yes,
Bart's thank you. Bart's a Microsoft senior specialist in the business applications field with extensive experience in the financial services and insurance segment. And he's here to share some insights from Microsoft today. Thanks for joining us, Bart.
Thank you so much for that, Tamara. Thanks for the introduction and many thanks for being here today. And I wanted to kick off indeed with what an exciting time it is for us, Microsoft, to be here and to help our customers empower and with their customers and employees in a better way. And the best thing about it, I would say, is where we are as a company ourselves and how we are transforming ourselves, and that actually drives the transformation at our customers. And I think this picture says more than a lot of slides did before, and that is we are one platform as in Microsoft. So yes, I am responsible for the business applications, but we are always thinking of the whole platform within Microsoft. And with that, of course, working together with our partners and our customers to continuously drive new innovations that will drive transformations at our customers. And with this picture, actually, I want to show you how the integration of the Power Platform helped drive to get into that one cloud in Microsoft, where we started off with Azure some time ago, actually building up our cloud business. And Dynamics has been a long time an on-premise solution, really innovating now towards the cloud. And that has been done mainly accessible through the Power Platform. So maybe to dissect that a little bit, we can go for the next slide. Thank you. Yes. So I think this gives a little bit better overview on how we look at the different layers within our cloud and how they connect towards each other. And what you see in the top layer, everything drives around data. We believe that if you can capture and analyze the data as a company in the best possible way, it will not only drive the optimization towards your customers, but also internally help to give your employees the best resources to serve your customers. But in that way, also looking at what kind of operations can be more effective and more efficient, and that's where I think Power Apps is really, the new bread. Let's say that will help you do that. So we're looking at what kind of data do you have, how can you analyze it, and then pushing it to the Power Platform to either make it a trigger and connect this to other services in your organization, or to act on it directly using the Power Platform and Power Apps. And if you look at the top where you see Office 365 Dynamics and your business apps, if I want you to take one thing away today, it is that we designed Dynamics, which is sales, service, marketing, actually as one big Power App. So we see the middle part of our platform as the best low-code solution there is in the market, and then the top part as the absolute no-code solution: implement, configure, and get up running. And maybe next slide. And I think this just tells a little bit more about where you find the differences between the Power Platform, what it does to you. So the Power Platform for us is all about triggers, and so to trigger and to pull, actually, to pull in information or to trigger an action, another action within a system. So where we use Power Automate a lot, but we've seen our virtual agents being very successful in our own B2C business, for instance, with Xbox. And we think that we, as a company, as a software company, because we have such a big market actually serving direct customers, for instance, Xbox, we know that we can help a lot of customers really reach that personal connection via virtual agents. And I believe that Power BI is a tool already long standing in the market that will give you the excellent tools to analyze all the new data that you're capturing across any interaction that you have, both with your customers, your employees, your suppliers. And if we're looking at what Dynamics does for you, we're looking really at a system of engagement. So I only mentioned a few, there's more modules here, of course, but the main focus is on customer service, sales, marketing, and what we do very well is the whole field services. I think of our optic reality, this kind of tools that we're constantly trying to improve and help you you get the best out of your interactions. This is what I had prepared for you today, Tamara. I hope this helps to shed a little bit of light on what we do at Microsoft, but happy to answer any questions that you may have.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Bart. I think one of the points that you brought up there, and a part of the diagram that you showed around Power Automate, I think is something that we'll touch upon later on today. So traditionally, communication has been via telephony or chat. It's one-to-one. And we're certainly seeing a drive across all channels, but what we're also seeing is the demand for automation, automated channels, that from sales, marketing, customer service. And I think that's a really important part of what we need to discuss today. So thank you for sharing your insights. Appreciate you taking the time today.
Thank you, Tamara.
Thank you. Okay, also with us, guys, is James Woollam, Managing Director of Hayes Parsons Insurance Brokers. James is an independent chartered insurance broker based in Bristol, and we really wanted to bring somebody else to the session today to bring some independent thought leadership and to look at where he sees the need for digital transformation within the insurance sector. Hi, James. Welcome.
Hi, Tamara. Thank you. Are you able to hear me okay? Because I know there were sound issues earlier. Yeah.
Yeah.
So can I get the first slide, please? So I've purposely today, having been asked to talk a little bit around from an insurance perspective, my views. I suppose I've purposely done this fairly untechnically, so I'm thinking from both the customer and the management perspective, and I'm not very technical when it comes to the digital side myself, so that's probably another excuse to avoid going into too much detail. But I've specifically tried to talk around what I see as the expectations and the challenges for both insurance companies and brokers, and also what the clients are expecting. I've done this from a broker perspective, as I am an insurance broker, but equally, I think this is as relevant for managing general agents and insurers as well. The first slide here I've put on is actually just shows what can go wrong. So one of the legacy computer systems that we and about 900 insurance brokers use actually went down 3 years ago. The fact it was 3 years ago, and I still remember it very well, tells you how challenging it was at the time. And it wasn't at the time a full cloud solution. We were in a tier 1 data center. There were challenges around backups. There were challenges around disaster recovery. And actually, some brokers were down for up to 5 weeks. And that really goes to show, I think, what can happen when things go wrong. And in fact, if you look at the photo, you can see I look very, very tired. And that explains that. Next slide, please. So I've had a think around what I see as the challenges that we have as insurance brokers. And really, you can take from this much of today being what the solutions will be. You'll notice I've purposely avoided COVID-19 and Brexit, which I think have probably been said an awful lot and are fairly obvious other challenges. But from the perspective of a broker, when they're considering what to do around digital transformation, what are the challenges they have? Well, we have legacy technology. There are still plenty of insurers using green screen technology. And I think up to now, in order to move that forward, you were either relying on software houses that still had a lot of legacy, or you had enormous cost. And I think that's something now that's coming down. We're seeing quite poor service from insurers who are struggling with some of that technology. And I think that means that companies that want to give customer service need to take up some of the mantle themselves. There is an enormous pool of untapped data. Brokers and insurers hold vast amounts of information about their clients that mostly at the moment sits in computers and isn't used. And actually, the data that sits there is an absolute goldmine for companies that work out how to tap it in the right way. We have changing buyers who are becoming digitally savvy, and in fact their expectations are changing significantly. We have a very reactive service at the moment. I read recently that over 50% of all insurance buyers only speak to their insurer or broker once a year, which is at renewal. There's a big question mark over whether products are fit for purpose. We're moving into a modern world where you don't necessarily have ownership of the property. You have the gig economy, and actually policies at the moment are really struggling to deal with that. And actually, we have a regulator, the FCA, and for insurers, the PRA, who are showing that they're going to be very, very proactive in dealing with brokers and insurers and MGAs moving forward. And they don't have a lot of time for excuses around poor technology and poor data retention, or indeed blaming service providers. They have very high expectations, and since COVID, the FCA has written to all brokers, MDs twice, telling them about expectations, which goes to show how proactive they're going to be. Next slide, please. So I think something that I hear all too often, both in my business and in insurance generally, is really an apathy to change, or we ban it, but you hear a lot around we've always done it like that. And I think that's a really challenging. The rest of the slides I've done are going to show why I don't think that's the case, that clients do just want to continue as things are. But there's a real challenge within the insurance industry at the moment to make people realise what's happening, and that actually the client doesn't just want things to carry on as they are. Next slide. Giving an example of that, so Hayes Parsons, as Tamara says, an independent insurance broker, and we're just beginning to investigate both digital transformation and, as part of that, selling online, which all forms, I guess, a part of digital. We have a product that we sell normally, traditionally by phone and by filling out a form in paper. And over the last 6 months, we've done a lot of work around launching a digital proposition, which will be, or is, a fully serviced online proposition. The client can do absolutely everything without any conversation with us as a broker or the insurer at all. And we spent many weeks and months trying to work out whether the clients would actually want that. They are the scheme in specifically is quite unsophisticated in terms of the buying habits, and they seem to like being on the phone and filling out paper forms. And we were concerned that this would be a lot of investment for us that could well not get us a lot of return. What's really interesting and has shocked us is, admittedly with COVID as well in the background, but we launched the product online full cycle in June, and by the end of October, getting on for 2/3 of all of our clients, some of which will have been with us for 10 years plus, used to doing it a certain way, are actually buying online. Another interesting stat that's not on here is a third of those buyers are actually buying out of hours, so they're not buying 9 to 5 anymore. Now, a small broker in Bristol has been able to put together this product because costs are coming down, and it's really interesting. I think that just shows what the clients want. We've been pretty surprised by that. Interestingly, in the background, that sits on Microsoft Azure, and we use Power BI to look at the data analytics. So it's been really interesting so far. Next slide. So why should insurance companies and brokers particularly think around changing? Well, I've thought around 6 or 7 reasons why I think fundamentally we all need to think about change. I'll start with a very positive one, is that actually there are new opportunities. So I mentioned earlier around the gig economy, that doubled in the last 3 years. 57% of people wish they could own less stuff. So we're moving to a position where actually you don't want to buy an annualized insurance policy once a year because actually you're only going to hold that item for a week or two. The amount of products that insurers can offer in that space is scary, almost none. I suppose that looking at it the other way, if you don't do it, someone else will. So 77% believe that in the future all insurers will have the same access to data. Therefore, actually, what's going to matter is how you cut that data and use that data to give yourself an advantage. Disruption is coming. We've seen already a number of insurtech firms come in. I think the first generation of insurtech firms are probably now coming back out, but the next phase that's beginning to come in look like they're here for the long term. Again, that digital disruption is coming, whether you like it or not. Google, Apple, and others, once they join the frame, there will be some real challenges. So I think everybody needs to kind of get with the program as quickly as possible. Next slide. In terms of what clients are looking for, again, it's a really interesting report that came out from one of the legacy insurance software houses called Applied, and some of the kind of stats from there were really interesting. So three quarters of Generation Z, so what's that, under kind of 23, expect to be using an app when selecting an insurance provider. Well, the number of insurance brokers alone who will have an app right now will be a handful. Certainly we don't. Does that mean we're shutting out the buyers of tomorrow? 85% of millennials and Generation Z consider 24/7 customer service important. And again, going back to my specific example, we're seeing a third of sales go through out of hours. Next slide. So what is it actually that customers want? So it was mentioned earlier around a kind of hybrid or multi-channel approach. So I think what we're not saying is that digital is going to take away from actually a more traditional talking on the phone and meeting with your insurance broker or an insurer. Actually, clients, including young Generation Zers, want a hybrid approach where they can maybe research you online, they can look at information online, they can then ask you questions, but actually they'll probably then, using 24/7 service, go and buy it out of hours. So interestingly, going back to our personal example on our online sales, we are receiving significant volumes of emails and calls asking questions before they buy, and we're servicing those, but they're then choosing to go and self-serve themselves out of hours. In terms of better service, I think we need to be really realistic on the service that we're giving to our clients at the moment. It's quite realistic to say that if a business customer was to call us today asking for a change in their policy, it could take us between 3 days and a week, even longer during COVID, to talk to an insurer, get that change made and send it back to the client. If we compare that to going online to buy a flight, or indeed going online and buying clothes, you could have the clothes, in fact you could have gone out for the night wearing the clothes that you've bought in the time from when you ordered it, in the time that you go and make a change in your insurance policy, and wait for some of the feedback to come back from the insurer or broker, which I think gives a really good example of the kind of improvements that we need to make. In terms of, as well, I've said around personalisation, So again, a really interesting statistic, 89% of insurers expect within 5 years personalised insurance will be expected as a standard practice. Clearly, what we've seen is really quite a dichotomy from that at the moment, which is that on the whole, with transactions and online, we've been thinking around volume and making things quite transactional. Whereas actually, what the people that buyers of tomorrow want is quite a personalised service. There's no way we can do that with the staff and the people we have right now unless we use technology to help us do that. And so being able to create personalisation in insurance is something we're all going to need to do fairly quickly. Next slide. So I think in terms of where we are today, there's a high risk of doing nothing. I think the FCA are taking more and more of a look at insurance. I think that there are security issues that we need to think about, and we've got a new generation of buyers that are going to demand multi-channel ways of dealing with insurers and brokers. But there's also a high opportunity for getting it right, whether that's in terms of happy customers who you're going to retain for longer, and whether you actually can use it for new business and use the data that sits behind to give you a competitive advantage. And that's it, Mark.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, James, for sharing your insights. There's certainly a lot of information there that resounded with myself. Funnily enough, my car insurance ran out today, and last night at 10 o'clock I realised that I hadn't read my renewal, and as such went and looked for another one at, I think it was 10:30 last night, and with a view to getting my insurance for up and running again today. So people do want to use any channel. Sometimes depending on the age and also the personality, you want to use different types of channels. Also different times, automation. You need to be able to account for all of the different people's preferences out there. And I think, like you said, it's challenging, but the technology is there to help you achieve that.
And I think it's becoming more affordable. And I think the great thing is, if you can get the technology to be doing the self-serve with you, actually, then it could have freed up people to call and have a chat with you about it. And maybe give you a prompt. So again, that's a true kind of multi-channel approach from an insurance company's point of view, which I think at the moment isn't happening.
And that's certainly what we're seeing a lot of. We're seeing a lot of automation being used for the people that don't need to make any changes. So you can transact with a significant amount of your customers via automation, and then you free up the agents to be able to escalate to. So that you're putting through people that actually need the assistance, and that could be on, an app, a phone, a chat, a video call, social media. So yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing your insights. Appreciate it. So just to pick up on here, and I mean, we covered off we covered off the new market dynamics and the new service model very clearly. And I think a lot of this slide's already been kind of covered by James, but just to consider how the new market dynamics drives the customer wants, which are aligned to the agent's needs, and how this translates to the business gets. So if we take a look at some of the customer wants, so this is about enabling conversation, as we've just been discussing, across any channels, across apps, across devices, being able to complete transactions quickly and efficiently, and using self-service. From an agent's perspective, to do so, they need all channel communications and the ability to be able to move across these inherently. And it's really important that agents have access to converse with their colleagues and the brokers and the customers and the prospects. And automation, as we said, is becoming a key driver there, and something my colleague will pick up on during the demo. And what we see from the business, what the business gets from that is, the growth in contact with your customers, higher completion rate, revenue growth, less issues, higher customer satisfaction and lower operating costs, which, you know, as we've discussed, is absolutely key. Also very much important, you know me, understand me, be able to help me. You know, that's very important here now. The data, as James said, there's data in silos everywhere, huge amounts of data, but being able to capture that data and feed it through to the agents so that they're able to assist efficiently, but also to consider upsells and cross-sells and other information that would help not only keep the customer happy, but help them, you know, spend more time and money with you. Strong customer relationships, you know, what the insurance industry specifically, although it goes across other sectors as well, you know, we're looking for repeat sales and increased positive contact rate, and also importantly, brand image. All of this needs to be safe, you know, in the current climate. Operation models are changing, people working from home, but from wherever they're working, you know, consumers and agents need to know that the data is safe. The agent needs to know that they're adhering to the GDPR, the MiFID II, etc. And the business needs regulatory compliance, you know, to ensure, as James said, you know, the regulator is made some exceptions to start with. You know, it was a whole new world, but time's moving on, operation models are changing, and compliance is expected. Thank you. So the new digital-driven insurer is customer-centric, proactive, and competitive organisation that delivers a unique and energizing, engaging experience to customers, agents, and brokers. And here we see the Microsoft Customer Engagement Platform at the core of the digital transformation, with ISV Connect partners such as Solgari and Traviata, adding greater value around the 360-degree view of customer, broker, and prospect. Let's take a look at this from a different angle. I'd like to welcome my colleague Martin Schmidt from Traviata. Martin, can you share with us your experience of working with insurers from an enterprise architecture point of view?
Absolutely, Tamara, thank you. And to all attendees, thank you for being there and sharing your valuable time with us in this transformational times, I would say. Indeed, as you know, Tamara, we are a company who's been in the insurance industry for a longer time, working with services and solutions for that industry. And what we basically have seen is that insurers are struggling to keep up with the pace of the changes that are there, simply because the current systems, sometimes referred to as legacy systems, they are very important to them. They are part of their enterprise architecture, but they were designed in another era, in another time, and they might not always fit the purpose that needs to be, let's say, that is required by the customer. So they're designed for something else, and they do that awfully good, but simply, well, not complying with the requirements we see from today's business. Where we do see changes is that many insurance brokers did investments, but they sometimes were a little bit too much aimed at cost efficiency or operational excellence, where we believe the world goes to customer experience and employee experience. And if we look at what insurers have done there, we do see activity around portals, apps, and thanks also James for making clear to us how many there are, and actually there is room for growth. But very important in that room is to make sure that those solutions are not isolated point-to-point solutions, but become part of a bigger picture, because basically you will need the bigger picture to give the right services to your customers. So we think to improve experience for the customers and your employees, you need a 360-degree view on all actions, all elements. And well, I'm happy with the slide that's on right now. As you can see, it's not only about the context, it has to do with policies, it has to do with claims. And normally I can imagine somebody would be surprised if I talk about claims when I connect that to customer engagement. But one of the moments of truth that is very important for an insurer or a customer is that moment where he has a claim. And it is not all about the outcome of, let's say, the decision, but it's also about being informed, having a status overview, and so on. So yes, there has been investments by insurers and brokers, but maybe the accent should be a little bit different.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, could we just go back to the previous slide, please? Thank you. So we've spoken a lot about customer engagement today, Martin. A word that comes up quite a lot is agile customer engagement. Can you share with me what this means to you?
Absolutely, and to our customers, of course. Well, first of all, agility, basically it's the ability to change. And I would almost say even before it becomes urgent or necessary. Because, yeah, companies do change, but sometimes they change a little bit too late or only because the pressure on them is too high. And we believe the agility we are referring to should be not only in the minds of the people, because that is one aspect, the people should be agile in reacting to change, but you should also have the right technology in place. Technology that is scalable, technology that is extendable without heavy coding or maybe no coding. I think it was Bart who already mentioned that part, where we basically would look at it more from, let's say, a construction point of view, where we can add different elements to a solution. You can put them on, you can put them off, you can have that architecture, what is necessary for that period in time. So it makes you much more agile if you would have like a platform with different solutions in that platform than having a monolithic big solution, which is not so, let's say, flexible and not so agile. So that is what we mean with agility. And of course, like mentioned before, focused on customer engagement.
Thanks, Martin. And finally, can you share any best practices that you've uncovered in the work that you've been doing in the insurance sector?
Yeah, absolutely. Sure, I can. And tomorrow I could tell a story about it. But, you know, I think in this time of the presentation where we are, we've shared many insights. And I think it's about time that we show something of what we do. Indeed, working with insurance carriers and brokers for many years, doing projects with them has learned us a lot. And we see a lot of similarity. Every company is unique. We accept that. But I would like to hand over to our teammate Rob, where we start to introduce what we have prepared for showing the best practices instead of talking about it. If that is okay for you, Tamara.
Perfect. Fantastic. Thank you, Martin.
Rob.
Thank you very much. Thanks very much for that, Martin and Tamara. Great intro. Very interesting to listen into James and Bart as well, coming into the live demonstration. Kate, if you don't mind flicking to the next PowerPoint, please. So just with regards to today and in relation to our demonstration, firstly, my name is Rob Henley. I'm the head of product marketing at Solgari, so I'll very much be focusing on the Solgari aspect of it. But because of the way we've pulled together today's webinar, it's going to be myself and Bjorn taking the lead here, with Bjorn looking very much at the top layer here, which is that full CRM and insurance specific capabilities. So what we mean by that is we're going to look at Traviata in action inside Dynamics 365. And what you'll actually see as part of his use case is Solgari in action also from the communications element. After that, he's going to hand back to me and I'm going to show you a bit around and talk a bit around our full integrated channel capabilities. So working across voice, video, SMS and more, along with the very important contact center functionality, which in the insurance and financial services industry is very, very important. Looking at queuing, call recording, all of those important things. And then we'll briefly touch upon the compliance side of things. So PCI DSS compliance around payments, call recording and communication recording, and all of those things that are very important to our customers in the insurance sector. Last thing that, before I hand over to Bjorn, is just there's two grey elements here, the all business function support and immediate cloud deployment. This is something that's been touched upon a little bit by Bart and across a few parts of the previous speakers, but it's the big thing here around cloud is that it does lead to much quicker deployment, which is very important, obviously, with everything that's going on with COVID, but beyond that. And also the benefit of cloud is that scalability. And all business functions support, what we mean there is that your sales team, your back office team, your support teams can all be on the same solution, particularly from a Solgari perspective, for the communication side of thing, which makes it a much more coherent solution. So at this point now, I'm going to hand over to Bjorn, who's going to take you through the CRM side of things before handing back to me to show you some of the back end side of things. So Bjorn.
All right, thanks, Rob. I'd like to take the time to thank everybody of being here. So I'm going to explain you what Traviata can do to help your company grow and accelerate in these digital times, especially during COVID. So the idea is that I have a use case in which the client has his environment, as you can see. So this could be a website of a broker, for example. In this case, it's Grateful Insurance. I'm the client. You can see here the name at the right-hand side. And these are all the options that I have today. So every aspect of the website, create a claim, contact us, get a quote, is all related to the Dynamics back office, as we can say, provided by Microsoft. What we at Traviata have done, we have created an extra layer that talks insurance, because, for example, getting a policy, getting a claim, those are words that are not known in Dynamics. So if you'll be using straight classic Dynamics, you won't have the possibility. You'll have to code, you'll have to implement it, and that will take time. The Traviata solution will provide 80% of what is insurance specific, and which will buy you a lot of time when implementing our product. So in this case, I'm the client. I want to contact Grateful Insurer, who is my actual broker. And so I can go to contact us and I'll have the telephone number. I can give them a call, or I can even do a chat if I got the omnichannel set up. So for this time being, I'll call. So I have my cell phone right here. And I'm going to the environment of the actual user. So it can be a person who's working in your contact center. It can be the broker, for example, because you can do it for brokers also. And this is what he'll see. I have my main dashboard, of course, and on the right-hand side, you'll see the Solgari solution. So I'm already logged in, so I'm available and I'm ready to get calls. So if I'm starting up now, I will be calling to the call center, and as you can see, I'm receiving automatically the incoming call. Since I know the telephone number, I'm just going to pick up. Since I know the telephone number, he also knows which contact is calling. So I'm just going to hang up and automatically I can go straight to the contact. So I have here Mr. Shelby, who is a client at my insurance company, and I get an immediate overview of his actual policies, his actual quotes that he had in the past with us, and I'm in my call. I already cut the call because I'm hearing myself double, so excuse me for that. But the main thing is, we added some layers to Dynamics that make it way more visual than basic Dynamics. As you can see, for example, in the centerpiece, we have this kind of roulette that will show the number of policies that the client has. So in this case, he has 4 policies, for example. I can see he has his car insured with us, he has a bike insurance, he has some life insurance. So all in one bird's eye view. So the idea of having a 360 view is actually true here. You have a lot of companies who say, yeah, we have 360 view, etc. But the combination of Solgari and Traviata will make it an actual 360 view, because Solgari identifies the client through the telephone number, for example, and Traviata will show what does my client have. So being or having worked in a contact center in insurance for 10 years, if I had this tool, I would have been helped a lot, because I had to go in all these kind of legacy systems. I had to recuperate myself an info from the claims part, apart from the policy part. And actually here in Traviata, I have it all on one view. So I can go to claims. I can see, okay, I have had a problem with a deer. I had a stone into my windshield, for example. I can see the number of quotes that we had. I can see the statuses. So there's an ongoing quote for example, a family insurance for Mr. Shelby. I can see the coverages, because that can differ from the policies, of course. So I'm policy holder for 4 insurances, but I'm also uninsured in 2 other policies, for example, a life insurance by my company, or the beneficiary from my wife's life policy. So those are things that are not basic dynamics, of course. You need to have some knowledge of insurance to be able to show this to you, of course. So for me and for the people at Traviata, this is one of our biggest pluses. We speak insurance. We know what insurances need. We can always help you, of course, or you can help us. It's a two-way circle, of course. But we know what you need. So in this case, I think it's best shown by the fact that I have my client and I know what he has, and I also know what he could need, because I have this new button where I can show him, okay, I saw that you have 4 policies, which means that you have 12 other maybe products that you don't have. Are you insured with your house? Where are you insured with your house? Can I offer it to you? So this is the ID. Mr. Shelby called, and I can do some upsell or cross-sell, for example. One that I want to show you also is, of course, our timeline. So the right-hand side between the Solgari solution and, of course, Traviata, you have the social pane, which will automatically log the call that we had. So if I'm having a call with a client, it will automatically be logged. So again, for somebody working in customer services, for example, they want to know, when did I had a touch point with my client? We had James, who also said normally you hear your broker 1 time a year. Here we can see, okay, this is a person who has regularly a contact with his client. We have touch points with that client, and it can be any type of communication. It can be omni-channel. It can be telephone calls, it can be chat, so everything is logged. Even all the quotes that we're sending to the client will be registered, so I don't have to search where is the quote, can I look it up? It's all stored in SharePoint, which is also by Microsoft, of course, so I can recuperate it quite easily. I don't have to look in, again, 5 different legacy systems before I can find it. Okay, so the main thing was, now I was going to make you a quote. So my client called and I saw, okay, you're not insured with your house. I had my sales pitch with the client and I said, okay, let's do it. Let's make a quote. In basic dynamics, which would I have to do? I'd have to go to the quoting, to the sales part of dynamics, and I have to do it all 1 by 1. That's not very useful. So we made a quick win in Traviata in which we can immediately click from our client. I do a double click and he will open the quotation system directly. Everything is already pre-filled. So I have the product, I have a fire insurance for owners. The only thing that I have to add is, okay, quote for Mr. Shelby. Of course, I can add an intermediary or a broker if it's needed. Depends on the kind of insurer you are. If you are a direct insurer, you can leave it blank. If you work with, for example, a broker, you can add a broker, because that's another part of Traviata. We can look at certain brokers. We can manage the brokers. We can coach the brokers if needed. So that's also registered. It's really a 360 view, of course. So I'm just going to save really quick. And then I'll have all the guarantees that are in this policy. So we have basic guarantees that are required and we have optional guarantees. So I'm going to add just one optional guarantee right here. Really quick. And that can be, for example, legal aid or civil liability, for example. So I'll add the legal counsel in this case. I'm going to add it. And as you can see, he will automatically recalculate the premium of my client. These numbers, of course, they are fictive in my case, but they can come from a backend system. They can be linked to the Traviata system, or we can also incorporate them directly into Traviata. It depends a little bit on how you work and how you fare, of course. Excuse me that it's in euros. We're a Belgian company, of course, so we don't use pound sterling. The related parties I can add, and I can also add a risk object. For example, if what kind of house is it? What's the amount to be insured, for example. Those are all things that we can do, but that's not the point. In my case, I will just make the quote, and I can immediately export it to PDF. If I'm talking, for example, with my client through the chat, which could be an option, or the chat of Solgari, I then can use it and I can send it immediately to my customer. I have the quote. It will say how much I have to pay. This, of course, is a basic quote. It's just for the demo, but you can have really elaborate ones. We also have some other ISVs that we can use as BDoc or Airflow that we can cooperate with Traviata. So I'm going to do it here. I can then either download it, send it through mail, or save it to SharePoint. Depends what's your flavor. I'm just going to save it to SharePoint and it's done. It will be saved in the timeline that you've seen just before, and then I can use it to send it to the client or have an automated process that will send the actual documents to the client via mail or via email. Depends on how digital you are already. Once it's been done, I will activate the quote and it's okay. My quote has been done. I don't have to do anything else but wait that the client signs. Signing can go through DocuSign, for example, if you want to do it full online, as James already said before. We're going to go more to the fact of online signing, of course. So once it comes back, the last part of making a policy, of course, we have the button that's been created by Traviata. It's not the standard Dynamics part. So if you want to do it through Dynamics, you have to, of course, program it, and it will take time. For us, it comes out of the box. Once it's done, policy is made. I just have to enter the effect date. So when the policy will start, I'll do it for tomorrow. So I think tomorrow you had a problem with your car insurance. If you want, I can do it here, and then we're done. The only thing which will rest for us is to activate it, and my policy will be created. You will also see that it will be a lot more visual once it's been created. I will see the guarantees through icons. So for somebody working in a contact center or a broker who is in first line, you don't even have to know the naming of the product. You can immediately see it from the icons, what the client has insured. So if I'm going back to the client, Thomas Shelby, you will now see a fourth policy that has been added here in the carousel. So I have the fire insurance for the owners that has been added. So again, it's very visual. Depends also on the largeness of the screen. So if I, for example, close the Solgari tool, you will see that I can add a lot more if needed. The policy activation has been registered. I have the quote that has been won. So every touch point again that is needed for the customer, for example, will be registered. So yeah, I think this can be a very valuable tool for people or insurance companies wanting to go digital, especially if you work with contact centers or with brokers, for example. And yeah, for me, it's resting to say that I hope to work with some of you, and I'll pass now the digital lamp to Rob, who will explain you more about Solgari, of course. So
brilliant.
Thanks, Rob.
Fantastic, Bjorn. That was brilliant. Really, really good. So thanks very much for that. I'm going to take over sharing of my screen now. So you've set a high bar for me. So that's good. It's always a good thing. Okay, so I'm just, hopefully now everyone can see my screen. Just building on from where Bjorn left off there. So obviously Bjorn really focused on the agent experience. I'm now just in the standard Dynamics 365 in our sandbox account here, where I'm going to start showing just a little bit more around the Solgari element of it. generally how our customers use Solgari. But then we'll look at how it's really beneficial, particularly to financial services and insurance in this case, around functionality like managing your cloud contact center, increasing your channels, and all of those things. Interestingly enough, and just kind of, you know, as we were listening to James speaking earlier, you know, and where he talks about that whole need now that customers essentially want more personalization around insurance, whereas obviously as an organization you want to increase your volume. And essentially what this joint solution with Dynamics, Traviata and ourselves facilitates is exactly that. It's because it's cloud, it's got that scalability, but because it's all based essentially around the CRM, it's giving you access to that 360 view of the customer, which Bjorn just showed you, which gives you that personalization, so that when the customer calls in, you straight away know who they are. If they're not an existing customer, you can start creating policies really quickly for them and gather all their information really quickly. So it's a very, very powerful joint solution. So just to build on that, as I said, just to talk a little bit around this endpoint and why it's so good for the agent. And to actually show you this, I'm actually going to take you on a couple of journeys. So for instance, the kind of standard telephony is still a very important part of insurance brokerages and insurance companies. So this is a kind of a typical insurance customer journey that I just designed for the purpose of today's, but I just want to talk to a couple of features that you're going to see here. So firstly, Solgari, as a company, we're also a global carrier, so we can carry voice and SMS traffic anywhere globally. So one of the benefits to our customers is that we can set up local numbers, we can toll-free numbers for your organization, so that when your customer calls into you, we can then essentially set that up in the system so we can route it through in the correct place. So what you're going to see today in the journey is that I'm going to call in, I set up a virtual receptionist or a digital receptionist that will handle this type of journey and take me either into a sales or support team, where it'll then be intelligently routed through a skills-based queue into the live agent, and Bjorn kind of showed you some of the live agent capabilities within Dynamics 365. So this is the journey we're going to go on. To do that, I'm going to bring two endpoints up here. I'm going to just close this down and I'm going to pull it across so you can see my mobile. And what we're going to do is I'm just simply going to call into AB Insurance Sales. So I want to do a follow-up call with the customer. I'm not sure why that's gone a bit strange there on the screen share. Okay, well, let's see how this goes. Oh.
We seem to have lost Rob momentarily there. I'll give him a couple of minutes to come back in.
I'm back.
You're back.
Yeah.
Good to hear.
2 seconds. Yeah, apologies, everybody. I just have to.
The joys of live demos.
Yeah, well, I can't blame any of the software. It's more so the bandwidth. So give me 2 seconds. I'm just getting everything set up again. And the side down here. Give me 2 seconds. Apologies.
No problem.
No.
Just so you know, we can only see your mobile screen. We can't see everything else.
Yeah, you'll see everything now in a second.
Okay, perfect.
Great. So I am back and live. I'm registered and ready to go. Okay, perfect. So as I was saying, I'm going to show you an inbound journey, a typical one. Here, I'm just going to call into ABC Insurance into their sales line here. So what I'm going to do now is actually just call in to one of our numbers. So this is the So I'm going to go for sales. Now you can have this obviously configured however you'd like it to be configured. I'm just going to go car insurance. As I'm following Tamara's journey here. So you can have your compliance message in there. Mute that. Okay, great. So now that we're back in live, so essentially what's after happening there is exactly what I showed you earlier. It's followed this journey right through to a live agent. And because I was logged into Dynamics 365, as you'd expect, as an agent, I was logged into Dynamics 365. it was routed through to me as the next available agent, and we automatically did a screen pop. Bjorn showed you this side within Traviata, and essentially we can do a lookup based upon whatever information we get from the customer. So in this case, we're using their mobile number, and what we can do is look up a contact associated with that mobile number. It could even be a case, or it could even be policies associated with that mobile number, so that you can quickly get to the information that matters, I suppose, around a contact. In this case, as I said, it's done a lookup based upon their mobile number. And now you can see I've got access to all of that customer information here. Also, while I'm on the call, I've got, if I need to transfer the call through, I can transfer it through to another department. Maybe I'm not the correct person to deal with it. I can escalate to video, which isn't relevant here, but I'll show you a use case for that later on. I can put the call on hold, all of the kind of telephony functionality that you'd expect. And as Bjorn actually touched upon as well, when I end this call, so I'm just going to end this call, we automatically register that and store that within the timeline that it needs to be associated with. So you're always logging all this important information on Dynamics 365. If I was then, let's say this customer got hung up prematurely, I can quickly initiate an outbound call to them. So I can just quickly click to dial here inside Dynamics 365. And what we do then on the other side is we ensure that we present the correct numbers to that customer. So in this case, it'll connect. You can see that it's calling back from ABC Insurances, so I know who I'm dealing with. Hello there. So I'll mute that. And I'll unmute this side as well. So now I'm in a call with the customer. As I said, this time was an outbound call. But in the back end, there's actually lots of really intelligent things happening, as I mentioned. So this is Solgari Console, and it's basically your management portal for your cloud contact center. So within here, you can configure everything to do with your inbound rules. So as I mentioned, what happens when people call in, outbound number presentation, which is basically if I call a person who may be within a certain region, we can always ensure that it presents a local number. ACD management is managing all of your extensions, your queues. So if I go to manage monitor really quickly, you'll see all of the queues that are set up and the different types of queues. I'm unavailable because I'm on a call. So all that important information that you need, and also then the ability to be able to quickly edit and manage that. And you can do that right down to a detailed level. So you can change all the configurations related to your queues so that it's very, very configurable. This is very important in organizations, particularly now at the moment, where you've got maybe a distributed workforce, where people working from home, including your management teams. And what it allows them to do is manage it very, very easily from anywhere. And also then, as you can imagine, from an agent's perspective, all I have to do is have access to the internet. I can log in over into Dynamics 365, and essentially everything I need as an agent is made available to me. I'm logged into the system, I've got access to all the customer data, and I can be a very, very efficient worker, so to speak. So very, very important, and we're seeing that in a lot of brokerages and insurance companies that we're working with, is that ability to be able to facilitate work from home, because the work never stops. Renewals are always happening. This allows them to continue that and to keep that going. Also within the section, you can see that you've got your capability to manage your integration with the CRM. You've got your other channels, which we'll talk about, like Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp. You can plug them all in through here as well. You've got your reporting capabilities as well. So you've got extensive reporting around first contact resolution, lots of reporting capabilities. And you've also got your archive and utilities. So for instance, if I take utilities here, wallboards, if I want a quick overview of how the contact center is performing, I've got access to a wallboard here. I can see all my live outbound calls or my live inbound calls. So it gives me a quick view of that. I also have access to the various queue wallboard, so I can look at any queue within the organization. So car insurance, there's no live calls into this queue, even though I did call into it. But you can see, because I'm in that queue, I'm unavailable to actually handle calls because I'm already on a call here. So you've got that live data as well, which can be exposed to the relevant people in your organization. So you can quickly see and make changes to ensure that best performances across all your communications with your customers. So it's a very, very easy to use cloud-based application, which gives you access to everything that you need from a cloud contact center perspective. So I'll just end this call, and I'm just going to show you another couple of features that I think are pretty relevant from the perspective of insurance. As I mentioned, at the end of every communication, whether across whatever channel it is, we automatically log it in the timeline that's open on the left hand side here. And just to give you a look at some of the data that we put in here that's I think is relevant. So first you got this high level information like the number, the person who's called in, the information related to them, the duration of the call and which agent handled it. So because we put that information into Dynamics 365, the benefit of that is that it can be leveraged for other reporting capabilities like Power BI. And what you can do is combine our communications data with a lot of the CRM data as well, like policy creation and things like that. So it's very, very powerful from that perspective. And you can also see here on the right hand side, we've got a call recording that is presented. So this is actually the call recording relevant to this communication here on the left hand side. So as an agent, I can be navigating around Dynamics 365, maybe see a previous call with a customer, and I can actually listen back to that call all from inside Dynamics 365. From a compliance perspective, we can ensure that only certain people in your organization have access to these call recordings. So it's not made available, widespread across the whole organization. It may be only people who are team leads, or in this case, the reason I can listen back to this is because it was me that made the call. So we can have rules that are applied to it. And it just makes it very, very easy to ensure best practices around customer service, and obviously to be able to listen back to it. But with regards to all your recordings, they are also accessible here within your archive. So you've got your recordings for all your call recordings for the organization are made available here. So if I have the right level of access for Solgari Console, I can go in here and see all our communications that were made across voice here within this interface. And I can quickly do things like search, maybe for an extension, or I could search for a customer number here if I want to listen back to all their calls, and it gives me massive capabilities, I suppose, within from an archiving and recording perspective. We're going to come back to recordings a bit in a few minutes, just when we come to the side of things when it comes to PCI DSS compliance and things like that. But as you can see, we also have conversation logs. So there's lots of channels happening here. So if you want to look at maybe SMS conversations or Facebook Messenger conversations that are happening, we can also make those available to you as well within this interface here. So you just have a little drop down and I can quickly go and look at all our SMS conversations and stuff like that as well. Speaking of SMS, it's a very, very important channel to a lot of our customers. So I'm just going to navigate back to Amy here. So it's a very, very important channel to a lot of our customers. So for instance, if I just open this out here, there's lots we can do with SMS. So for instance, if I wanted to be able to chat with Amy using a different channel, you can see here what it does is it recognizes what number. Oh, I've initiated a call, didn't want to do that. It recognizes which identifier you're using for that customer. So in this case, it's their mobile number. So what it does is it provides you with the opportunity to communicate with them using one of those channels. So if I select SMS channel, what this allows me to do then is say, hi, Amy, can we do a follow-up call? And essentially now I can enter into a two-way SMS conversation with Amy. And the cool thing here is that as I'm the SMS is originated from my endpoint, I can then respond and that will be directed back to me. Yes, of course. Oh, of course. Does tomorrow suit? At 10 suit. And basically I can quickly have a two-way SMS conversation. So if, let's say, you're not getting through to the customer, they're just maybe not picking up for one reason or another, what this allows you to do is have a conversation with the customer over a different channel, which in this case is SMS. And all of this then in turn can be recorded inside the CRM. In this case, what I can do now is create a task as a follow-up task, maybe to do a follow-up call with Amy tomorrow. Another agent might be online and they may pick up that task. I can assign it to them. But you can see here, it just makes it very, very easy to communicate over different channels. And as I mentioned, there's WhatsApp, WeChat. There's also things like Twitter, which can be plugged in here as well. So there's lots of channel capabilities available around this endpoint. Just then to touch upon SMS a little bit more before I go on to our final journey, which is kind of an all-channel journey where you start with chat and escalate. Just to look at this descriptor here. So what we very much looked at here is the top layer, which is the live communications, where you've got your customer coming in using voice, maybe Messenger or SMS. and they're been directly routed through to a live agent using our routing capabilities, and you can see it been responded to within Dynamics 365 using this channel integration framework. But one thing that was mentioned a couple of times on this call is the importance of self-service. And what we can also facilitate on top of that is this self-service automated communications capabilities, where a customer can call in, they can maybe pay for a policy, or they can renew a policy without having to deal with a live agent. They may be able to check they could use SMS, they can use voice, they can use even Messenger. And what we can do is facilitate those journeys so that you can have a much more productive live agent team, because they're not having to deal with as many queries as they would have to. But also what this is doing is it's allowing you to increase your volumes. It's actually improving the user experience or the customer experience, because they've got more options for how to communicate with you. And this is particularly useful for out of office hours, where people want to maybe be able to make a payment query where the status of their policy or a complaint or whatever would be. So this automated layer of communications is very important. The main example I would say in insurance would be particularly around renewals. So for instance, if Dynamics 365 sees that I'm up for renewal tomorrow, what it does is it automatically triggers an SMS to be sent to that customer with the relevant information, reminding them that their policy is about to expire. And it can then in turn set in motion a kind of a hybrid communications experience where the initial communication is initiated by our automated system, but it would then be routed through to a live agent to do a follow-up call with them. So there's lots we can do to really move you from a reactive place, which I think James also mentioned, to a more proactive place around your communications with your customers. So last journey is just a quick one to show you because it touches on a few other things that we do. But if I just show you another cool way that you can actually use to communicate with your customers, it's using this kind of chat audio video capabilities that we have in our Solgari Connect solution. So this can be embedded in your website, and what it allows you to do is have a chat directly with an agent in an organization, or it could be a group of agents. You know, it can be, there's a number of ways that we can route this through. Can we speak? And what they can do from here essentially is they can share files, share images. So brilliant for insurance, because it allows you to maybe share a copy of your driver's license or no claims bonus or whatever it is. But the cool thing is you can actually escalate to audio or video from within here. So you'll see that I'm just going to initiate the video call here. Now it's just using a connect test here. So what you're actually seeing there is, I need to mute myself. Yeah. So what you're actually seeing there is it's done a lookup based upon this information. But what we can actually do at the beginning of a conversation is our Connect bot can gather some information from them, like a policy number, an email address, it could be their mobile number, and then we can use that then in turn to do a lookup. From an agent's perspective, then they can chat away here, so chat away with the customer. They can also then do something like a screen share. So if you wanted to review a document, you can initiate a screen share. And in this case, what I can do is actually straight away do a screen share. So for instance, if I want to share this PowerPoint presentation with you, what they will be able to see then is they'll be able to see your screen. They'll be able to keep chatting here on the left hand side, and they can also have the audio element of the conversation. As with everything we do, it's all recorded, so it's all compliant. So if you're having this type of communication with a customer, it's ideal from a compliance perspective. And they can even make payments through this endpoint or through this solution. So for instance, I can bring out a keypad here, which then when prompted, I can enter my credit card details in here. So as part of our solution, we've got a number of ways of helping you achieve PCI DSS compliance, either by integrating with your third-party payment provider using an IVR, where we gather the information, send that information to your third-party payment provider, and then pass it back to the agent. And at various points, the APIs can trigger an SMS to the customer to confirm that the payment has been made. So we can facilitate that process. But then we also have the option to do things like stop start, where you can stop the recording while you take the credit card details and then re-engage the recording, and solutions like that as well. But they're just two examples of how we help you achieve PCI DSS compliance. So that's it. I'm going to hang up this call here. That call will end. As with everything, it will be recorded in Dynamics 365. But I suppose the objective of my demonstration was to kind of show a bit more behind the scenes with regards to the back office, how easy it is to manage, and also to show you some the other channel capabilities that we have within our endpoint to basically help you move from maybe more reactive communications perspective to a more proactive, but also how you can provide that personalized experience at scale across all your channels. So Tamara, if it's okay with you, I'll pass back and you can start the presentation again. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to jump in. I think you're up next, Ian, is that it?
Yeah, okay, Rob. I'll take over from there then, if I may. Ian Bourne here. Firstly, great thanks to Rob there for that amazing presentation around the incredible functionality around Solgari and what it can do in the insurance setting. My name is Ian Bourne. My company's Cloud 2020. We're a Microsoft Dynamics and Power Platform partner. And what I'm going to do is just take a few minutes to explain what our role is in this whole setup and scenario. I'll say we're a Microsoft Dynamics partner. Our key role is to effectively make all this mesh together and work. So you see here we've had Solgari, we've got Traviata, and there's underlying all this is Microsoft Dynamics 365. So in terms of the context of this presentation, it's making those work, but in some ways it's also slightly broader. So Katie, could we move to the next slide, please? Brilliant. Okay, now this might look a little bit complex, but there's a lot of information in here. But this kind of really explains the role of a Microsoft partner in this context. On the top left-hand corner, you've got Solgari and Traviata that you had those crazy presentations from that shows such a broad range of options around deployment for insurance companies. And I think hopefully you've just seen the potential for how very quickly and smoothly an organization can move into a completely digital format and platform, and particularly in the light of today's context, where agents now are working very dispersed and in different environments, and potentially from their home and off their dining room table, or what have you. And also bearing in mind all those key issues around security of data and integrity, which can be achieved through using the Microsoft platform because of the security that goes on behind it, or what have you. But also, I was mindful of what James picked up very early on this morning, which is around, and it's about the integrity. When his platform went down for, was it 5 weeks or something bizarre? That is a game changing, because built on the Microsoft platform, that issue doesn't happen because we've got all the business continuity and security and data integrity built into the platform before we even have to start doing what else. But what's our job? Well, let's imagine that you started on this journey and you brought in, say, Traviata initially. Well, what we need to do is to deploy that, connect it to Exchange. So therefore now you can actually add accounts and contacts and tag emails, record appointments in your calendar, and create tasks. And all those are shared between your Outlook and your Dynamics. And you saw that in the activity pane that Rob showed there. So those are all appear in those activity panes, and vice versa. But also you can create those tasks and appointments for colleagues as well, and see how well those activities are going on. The integration with Outlook and Exchange, though, goes beyond that, and this is where AI starts to kick off. And we'll talk about that in other different areas as well. But the AI means that you've then got the relationship assistant, which is configurable, so you can decide what it wants to track and what have you. But let's say, for example, I was on a call with a customer and I said, look, that's really great. And then I followed up with an email saying, thanks for the call today. I'll call you next week when you've got other information so we can follow up. What the AI would do and the relationship assistant would do is spot the need there to create an appointment, because it's reading the context of my emails and saying, it looks like you decided to make a call next week. Do you want to make that appointment? So that at a very starter level is what we do is by making that connection to Exchange. But let's think a little bit more about that top right hand corner there, that seamless integration piece. SharePoint is your secure document storage area. So we can set up to tag areas for against policies or opportunities or accounts or contacts, where you can share those key documents that you want to keep secure. And clearly in the insurance business, there's a lot of concern and quite rightly around that security around personal data. So you've got that scan of somebody's driving license or previous policy details and what have you, then adding it into a secure SharePoint environment is really crucial. The one that really exciting these days, I think, is the integrity into integration into Teams. Directly out of Dynamics these days, you can collaborate with some colleagues around a particular entity. So let's say you're discussing a policy, you can create and you're trying to put a specific policy together for a customer, and you want to collaborate with 2 or 3 colleagues. You can immediately create a team around that and then bring those team members in and collaborate around it. Okay, but what other workloads have we got that might be relevant? So we've got Traviata, which is effectively operating in the sales side. We've got Solgari operating across the whole piece as your comms tool. Well, what else have we got here? Well, at the left-hand edge, we've got marketing. So Dynamics 365 Marketing now, a fully end-to-end marketing platform, which again can build on website tracking and social. It's very much account-based marketing with GDPR built in there. We can offer that as well. So that can feed your pipeline. We've got as well finance, so the other end of the extreme, after you've created your leads, you've got them sales ready, you've sold them some policies, you've got them on board as customers, but at the end of the day you need to check the invoicing and the finance. We can drop finance in there as well. Customer service is something which I think is really important these days, and we can, if you have a case management team, then we can drop customer service in there with all the escalation and interactivity as well. And again, that's where Solgari comes in so beautifully into there, because of being able to manage customer service across multiple different comms channels. So we've got other out-of-the-box workloads. But then we can also, you see there, we've got the Power Platform. So on the bottom line there, we've got Power BI we can implement for you. And this is very much around that reporting element. There's a lot we can do in terms of views, graphs, dashboards within Dynamics itself, but we can elevate that to the next level with Power BI. So we can tailor that all-important reporting so the agents know exactly where they are in terms of their current situation, sales and open opportunities, open policy sales, and what have you. We can give you a team view, so how are your team doing, but then at management board level as well. We probably then go into Power BI so we can get those real interactive visualizations going on for you there. The fact that all these platforms talk together means that we can bring Power Automate in there. These are real solid workflows that not only operate across all these platforms here in the Microsoft stack, but also can connect to third-party applications as well. So you may have legacy systems that you need to talk to, perhaps a finance or some other routing system, what have you, and we can use the flows within Power Automate to automate workflows there. Then we've got the Power Apps. So what's the benefit of Power Apps? Well, this is discrete apps for specific roles and tasks. So from here we can give you a specific application, which may be for perhaps surveyors or on-site assessment for repair and what have you. We can build those apps that sit within this and talk to all this data that's in there. And then we've got virtual agents. So we've got using the Power Solgari in there, we can bring that in, we can build some intelligence behind that, and we can set that up. So again, this is about, as Rob intimated, making sure that wherever possible the customers get the answer they need, whatever they need it at whatever time, and as fast and quickly as possible. And as research shows, customers really want to engage without talking to a human being as much as possible to get an intelligent response, and then finally, when their sales ready, somebody can get in there and actually close that deal or support that customer. You know, it's down on the bottom left-hand side, LinkedIn. This is really cool these days, particularly on the basis now that Microsoft own LinkedIn. So this is where we can bring LinkedIn Sales Navigator as part of giving you additional information around your customers, so you understand them a bit more. But more importantly, these days now, we can actually bring in dynamic LinkedIn selling, LinkedIn advertising, and bring those links, those leads straight into the Dynamics platform, so you can pick up on that new opportunity through LinkedIn advertising. Okay, I want to go to the next layer now. So Katie, can you move to the next slide, please? So okay, let's just think about this. In the middle, if we think about all those almost traditional, I say traditional, but those workloads, this is, you know, marketing, customer service, sales, what have you, we can layer on top of that now a lot more, because this all sits on the common data model. And by that I mean we've got the AI and insights and mixed reality. But how's this relevant to insurance? Okay, well, you could say maybe it isn't, but in actual fact, sales insights in particular, which is around understanding your customer and where they're coming from or what they're buying, how much they're spending at any one time, means you can really focus your sales activity around what your customers are asking for. Never mind what you think you want to sell them, but what they want. And I think that again links back to James, which is around understanding what your customers want rather than just keeping to stick to what you know. I think customer insights is really powerful as well, because this is about understanding across a range of inputs, maybe websites, your calls, what have you, when customers are coming to you, how they're getting in touch with you, and all that kind of good stuff. Customer service is powerful if you do have a service desk, because you can actually find out, discover what is taking up most of the time, what the issues are. You can try and resolve those issues to cut the customer service side costs down, but also ultimately provide a much better service to your customers, particularly because then you start to build the knowledge bases that are needed there. So when customers come onto your website, what have you, they will be naturally served through natural query language, served up those documents, which may help them sort themselves out before they need to actually speak to somebody. We mentioned virtual agent. I want to also talk about AI Builder. Now, AI Builder, we understand there's an awful lot of legacy systems in the insurance sector, and AI Builder with particularly an element called robotic process automation is a way of integrating with third-party systems without having to build expensive connecting platforms. So this can simulate a human being looking at a quote, for example, going out to a third-party quoting tool, inputting the data, getting the quote back, bringing that data back into Dynamics, and then creating the quote from that, which goes out to the customer. So some incredible options going on there. But let's sum up what Cloud 2020 can do. So we can do all that, but more importantly, we can help you as part of your digital journey. So we can help you understand your business. We understand all the magic of what people like Traviata and Solgari can do. We understand all the magic that Microsoft can bring to the party with all their different applications. It's us then to help you make that journey. We're not suggesting you'd implement all of this in one big hit. That would be more than adventurous, but we can help you with that project management, looking at phased implementation, some flexible deployments, but particularly getting some quick realization of your ROI. So looking at breaking out your journey into small discrete areas and making those implementations, picking up the best tools, implementing them, and securing the data to make sure that that is appropriate for you. And more importantly as well is looking and discussing with you how you manage your change management. Some of this is really, really different for some of your agents and your teams, and that has to be managed. So, and we have experience of of bringing that to change management to life. And it's not just about training, but it's about the new changes to your teams, and to make sure you bring your teams with you. If you don't get that customer engagement, your staff engagement, then this can be more than challenging. So in a nutshell, we need to understand what it is you want. We then can work with you to bring the best solutions together. And as you say, build on the likes of Traviata and Solgari. I think that's probably enough from me tomorrow. Can I pass back to you?
Of course. Thank you so much, Ian. Really appreciate you taking some time there. And I think, you know, it is really important. Digital transformation can be a huge journey, and working with an SI partner that can help consider the business, the challenges, the outcomes you're looking to derive, and the best way to get where to start. There's so much that you can achieve, but where to start, where can the business derive the most value? So thank you, appreciate that. Okay, so I'm just going to have a couple more slides just to go through the business impacts of the solutions that we've presented today. So just to recap, some of the challenges that we've seen: struggling to deal with remote working due to on-premise or legacy communication systems, concerned how remote working is causing compliance and regulatory issues around communications, business growth and transformation constraints by legacy systems because of a need to keep and access that historical data, and also information silos hampering salespeople's ability to leverage the information that's in your current systems. No ability to prompt for upsell, cross-sell. So these are the challenges, and these are the impacts. Being available anywhere, anytime, compliantly, scale. With your business, there's no longer a CapEx solution that you need to buy to fit 500 people or 200 people or 10 people. You need however many your business needs from a services perspective. So SaaS delivers that. Start with what you need and flex with the business. With Solgari, you can flex up, you can flex down. You're not constrained to the legacy type solutions. Fast deployment. We were able to bring 2,000 users live in conjunction with Microsoft and Solgari recently. So that old way of thinking, where projects were cumbersome and costly, and there was a huge focus on integration projects, that then needed to be maintained, it's all gone. You deliver within Dynamics, you deliver efficiently and swiftly. And the impact there is immediate digital transformation. So that's the overall impact. If we just look at the different solutions, can you just skip on for me, please, Katie? So some of Solgari's business impacts, all of the channels, including social and all interoperable, so that you can move between them. Full functionality that can be everything from cloud contact center to PBX to the recording and archiving, everything that you need from a functionality perspective to run your business. And that's not just the contact center, that's the whole business. Flexible, considerate automation. Automation channels are huge. They're changing the way contact centers and businesses are working. And now Dynamics is your complete communications endpoint. So you've got a single view of your customer, you've got a single view of all of your data. It's easy to use, so no excuse. And finally, accurate data analytics across all of the channels. Just looking at Traviata, some of the fantastic business impacts that can be derived. If you can move on for me, please, Katie. So generate faster quotes, higher conversion rates, increase upsell, higher renewal of policies, huge cost reduction in handling claims, uplift in revenue and security. Also being key, and the shift from the policy centric to the customer centric. So all of the solutions together are able to derive huge amounts of benefits to the business. Thank you. So just in closing, I'd like to conclude with an extract from a Microsoft white paper, Empowering the Digital Insurer, which I will of course make available to everybody on the call today. We live in a world of digital experiences that have transformed the way we work, socialise and buy. Each of us is at the centre of our own connected network that includes mobile, social media, internet, location, telephony, and of course face-to-face interactions. For insurers who embrace this new way of thinking, there are tremendous opportunities to engage customers and agents, empower employees and boost productivity. But only if they can deliver the seamless, proactive and personalised experience that both their customers and their employees now expect, anytime, anywhere, and on any device. The carrier who achieves that, enabled by powerful insight and productivity tools, is the digital insurer that will help to continue to shape the industry. If you are experiencing any of the challenges that we've discussed or touched upon, or you're interested in any of the business outcomes discussed or referenced today, how can we help you? Ian, can I ask you, how can our team help the people on the call today?
Yeah, sure, Tamara. It's a good question. Like I say, what we don't want to do is, we've shown so much today that we don't want people to be scared by it. I think there's a great opportunity here for our team to have a conversation with people and look at what's top of mind. What is the biggest issue at the moment? It might be the fact, because obviously with Corona, everyone's had to move away from the office potentially and be a bit more dispersed. So it may well be bringing in Solgari immediately, because that gives you the ability to set people up with that communications, omnichannel communications piece immediately. It may well be that you're starting to stumble with some of your third-party sales tools and what have you. In which case, okay, let's bring in Traviata, let's get your Dynamics 365 set up, and then bring in your comms perhaps afterwards. But whatever it is, our team can work with you to identify what your key issues are, contain them. The issues around the data, it's all about data. So to bring in, say, sales, what's the left and right hand edge of those data boundaries? Where is it? What quality is it? How can it be brought in? And then making sure that whatever is implemented works with your team, so that they adopt it and what have you. So I think to your point, really, the first thing is just start with a conversation. We'll send out a link so people can contact us. We'll have a conversation to really try and identify what's the first issue and what would that involve. And it is a two-way street, because it will involve input from people in the business, so that they can effectively let us understand what is key and what is specific about their deployment requirements and their use case and their business process flows. That's absolutely critical. But it starts with a conversation. We'll send a link out and let people, if people like to just contact us, we'll pick the phone up. We'll have some online presentations. We'll have some calls, and we'll enable people to get in their head some idea of what can be done for them specifically.
Fantastic. So similar to a discovery session, Ian.
Correct. Absolutely.
Fantastic. Good. Okay, so we'll follow up with a link to a form. If you are interested in talking to any of our team, drop us your details and someone in the team will follow up. I'd like to just pause for a second and thank all of the people that are on the panel today, everybody that's given up their time, from Microsoft, also James, Traviata, my colleagues at Solgari and Cloud 2020. I really appreciate your time and the insights that you've shared with us today. I'd also like to thank the attendees for giving up your time. We appreciate you joining us today and hope that you found the session beneficial. And look forward to connecting with you going forward to see how we might be able to help. And before we close off, of course, I'd like to open the floor to any questions. I haven't been monitoring the questions, Katie, so if you could ping some across to me, I'd be delighted to start working my way through those. Okay, so I do have one here. I think this is a question from a broker. Insurance companies are focusing strongly on the financial part of the policy. Do I get enough premium income to pay for the claims? Somebody at Traviata, might you be able to help me there?
I don't know if that was the whole of the question or not, but well, there has been a balance between insurers and brokers as long as I remember. And sometimes we see that a broker is the one who feels responsible for the customer engagement part and having that close connection because he knows the family, he knows the situation, he knows the local situation. And sometimes you see a little bit like a how could I say, not a battle, of course, that is a too strong word for what it is, but well, you see that sometimes brokers talk about insurers in a certain way and insurers sometimes talk about brokers in a certain way. Well, I personally believe, and we see that also in real life, that a customer doesn't really care about who or what, as long as the experience for him or her is the right one, right? That could be even a full digital experience, or that could be a personal one, that could be through the broker or through the insurer. I think the worst thing we could do is to be opposite against each other. I think the way to react to the changing market and the new competition is to work together and to make sure that every channel gets its attention. I think we can learn also from the banking sector, in which we have seen, I would say, comparable situations. Again, my message would be don't stand like the one is better than the other. They're both there. Utilize it to the maximum of the capabilities to have a great customer experience. I think that should be the message.
Thank you. Also, a question around transcription, is that available? I can actually pick that up. So from a Solgari perspective, we can transcribe. Obviously the chats and SMSs can be put straight into Dynamics, but from a transcription perspective, that's available both from within Solgari inherently, or also the transcription services from Microsoft utilizing customer insights and things like that. So certainly transcriptions available across the solutions. Any more, Katie? Can you see any more in the chat?
No, I can't see any more in the chat.
Can we open a live Q&A to the people that are in attendance to see if anybody has any questions that they would like to position?
I think we've probably answered most of the questions by the sounds of it tomorrow.
Sounds like it. I'm not sure how to if we can switch microphones on or not, or if there's any way for people to put their hands up if they would like to ask a question. If not, then you know, please feel free to connect with all of the people that have presented today. We'll follow up with the presentations with some white papers, also a link to the recording, and hope to continue conversations to see how we can support the business going forward. Okay, one question here. Okay. Attendees can only ask questions through the Q&A tool. So if anybody else has any questions before we close out, I'll just give it another 10-15 seconds to see if there's anything else we can support with. Otherwise, we thank you again for your time and look forward to following up with you in due course. Thank you, team. Much appreciated.
Thanks, everyone. Great stuff.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.